Hey there guys, Adrian here, aka JediBro95, and this is a type of video I've wanted to be doing for a little while, but I've never really decided to get to it as there has just been a few things that have really been hindering my decision. One of those just being I just didn't think people would be interested, but now I've decided, you know what, let's take the leap of faith here because I really just want to talk about something like this because this is something that has been on my mind for a little while. So, this video is basically going to be talking about LeBron's fourth championship and what that ultimately means for him and his legacy, and what else will he need to do to surpass Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time. Because even with this championship, um, I would argue that Michael Jordan is still a greater player, and it is important for me to note here that I am actually a LeBron fan. I have respected LeBron ever since I started watching the NBA. I've always believed he was I've always had him as my favorite player, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a stan by any means. I used to be. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I used to be a stan like that, but once I started just to enjoy the NBA more, I started watching the games more frequently because I wasn't watching that much around the early to mid 2010s because personally I just never did. Um, so I decided to keep watching, and then I started to grow a little bit more respect for just other players and shit like that. But with that being said, to me, like, there's a lot of things I want to talk about with this championship, what it does for LeBron's legacy, and what he needs to do to surpass Jordan, and also the double standards I'm seeing when it comes to LeBron to this championship compared to everybody else. So let's just start right off the bat. This championship does count, okay? I don't like this idea that this title does not count ever. Like, it just doesn't count. It's an asterisk, blah de blah de blah. Because I may have had the same thought process going into the bubble because I was like, like people are choosing to sit, people are choosing to everybody got 4 months layoff and shit like that. I don't necessarily know if I want to give full credit to this season, but then I sat down and started watching some games in the bubble, and you know everybody seemed to be on the same playing field as everybody else, realistically speaking, and especially the fact that everybody got time to heal up with injuries. The Clippers got time, the Rockets got time, um, Thunder, Lakers, everybody got time to heal up and be ready for this bubble and get ready to make a run to a championship. So after a while, I was just like, yeah, I'm starting to think that maybe this championship actually doesn't have an asterisk. And, after thinking about it a little more, no, this championship does count. I'm not going to sit there and say that it's the greatest championship LeBron's ever won because for me personally, outside of 2016, you can make an argument that it could be anywhere from second to his last championship he's ever won. If you value 2013 up there, which, is fine, I would say definitely do so. If you think 2012 is better than this year's 2020, which I could understand too, then you could put it up there. But for me personally, I think this is LeBron's second greatest ring he's ever won. 2016 is a no contest that will never ever be greater unless Braun comes back from like 3-0 against the Nets next season, which is who I have in the finals next year. Unless something like that happens, I don't see a situation to where I don't see an argument for this championship being above 2016 at all. But after that, you got me with whatever else. But this idea that the championship doesn't count is just bullshit to me because there's everybody was on the same playing field, everybody was on the same was given the same opportunities and shit like that. And sure, a lot of people may have sat out due to injuries and shit or like COVID issues, which I'm going to be honest, I don't really know how that would have affected things, especially when you consider the fact that, especially like a lot of people want to bring out the fact that, oh well, the Rockets lost Daniel House in the second round. First of all, okay, well, one, he chose to break the bubble protocol, so that's his own fault. And two, and I think this is something that needs to be said, the Lakers were still winning that series anyways. Okay, the Lakers were still gonna win that series in about 5 or 6 games. Daniel House had no did not have much or any impact on the Rockets Lakers series. So I don't understand why people are bringing that up. And same goes for the finals. Everyone wants to sit there and say, "Oh, Bam, Dragic, they got injured for games 2 to 6, and then fuck, what was the other one? Oh yeah, Butler hurt himself." Well, one, Butler stayed on the court. Butler was still playing, so that doesn't matter. He's willingly choosing to play through an injury. That's number one. Number two, and this is more important to me, the Lakers still would have won this series even without even with them being on the court. I had the Lakers winning. I personally had them at 5. I thought the Lakers were going to win in 5 games, but when the when the Heat won an extra game, I was like, damn, this is pretty impressive. Also, as a quick shout out, I'm going to give respect to the Miami Heat, as this year they were a team that basically nobody expected to do anything, including myself. I saw people making videos, especially guys like Legend of Winning, making videos about how, oh, the Heat, it wouldn't surprise me if they were in the conference finals. So I'm just like, bro, they're not making the conference finals. They're going to be a second round out at their best. And they're gonna they're not even gonna make the playoffs at worst. But the Miami Heat, they hung tough. They did what they had to do. They rolled with the punches, and they made it to the finals, and they won in 6 games. So I gotta give props to the Miami Heat. And I also give respect to the organization as a whole, because this is an organization that really and truly made a finals without a superstar, or at least it is the narrative at the time. Right now, I would classify Jimmy Butler as a superstar, and I would consider him the second best shooting guard in the NBA, behind obviously Mr. James Harden. But that being said, I give respect to the Miami Heat, and the Miami Heat have definitely won me over as a fan this series. The fact that they rolled with the punches, they still competed, and they pushed themselves to win to at least try to win this series, even with all the injuries. You guys have earned a fan in me, bro. Like, that is respect from me. You guys get the absolute respect from me, because that is something that I was not expecting. But that being said, moving back to the original topic at hand. I don't know if they were going to be truly impactful enough to help win the series, but nevertheless, moving on. The Lakers obviously won. So what does this mean for LeBron's legacy? So I would argue that this championship makes him the undisputed second greatest player of all time. Okay, maybe you could have had an argument for Magic beforehand, or maybe you could have had an argument for Kareem before, but now, in my opinion, that's done. That debate is dead. LeBron James and Michael Jordan are the 2 greatest players to ever play the game. And I don't want to say it's a considerably wide margin, but in my opinion, there is a big enough gap between LeBron and Magic. I would say there's a good enough gap in between the two of them to where it's going to be hard for you to make a legitimate argument about who's better, about Magic being better. Now, does this make him the GOAT? As I alluded to, no, I don't think this really does make him the greatest player of all time. Because personally, I don't think he's... don't get me wrong, this championship makes it a lot closer than I think a lot of people are making it out to be, especially when you consider the fact that this championship was pretty damn impressive and pretty damn valuable as a title. I don't like talking about this specifically, because it is a very touchy subject, but with the passing of Kobe Bryant and the Lakers winning this championship and dedicating it to Kobe Bryant, as well as this entire playoff run, and also the fact that everybody thought that LeBron was washed, it was over, he was completely garbage, or the fact that everybody said that Anthony Davis was overrated, he's not going to be that good, and he rolled with the punches, and he made an All-NBA team and was second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. to even guys like Rajon Rondo, who everybody sat there and said that he was completely useless, he was a net negative for the team, blah blah blah. Um, to KCP, who was literally one, I think one disappointing season away from being completely out of the league. Which, and to be fair, he did step up. He played very well, especially in this postseason. He played very well, and I give him all the credit for that. To everybody sitting there, even saying that Kuzma should have been traded for Anthony Davis, and personally, that's a different conversation. But this team was doubted in one way, shape, or form, and they still came together and won this championship. They still came together and won this championship, though, and I give that. And the Lakers definitely deserve this ring. Now, honestly, this doesn't make him the GOAT. Okay, it makes it closer. Honestly, it makes it a lot closer than it did last year, than it was before this year. But it definitely doesn't make him the GOAT. So, where do I see LeBron ranking? What do I see? What do I think LeBron needs to do to become the greatest player of all time? I honestly don't think he needs that much more. Because when you combine all of the the statistical accolades that he's accomplished, as well as things like, being a four-time MVP, he now has the record for most All-NBA selections, he now has 4 championships, 4-time Finals MVP. Him and Michael Jordan are the only 2 players in NBA history who can say that they've won Finals MVP in each of their championships with a minimum of 3. I know Hakeem Olajuwon did it with 2, but I don't really think that is as impressive. If he won the 3rd championship and he was Finals MVP, then we could talk about Hakeem Olajuwon a little more. But personally, in my opinion, I just, those 2 guys are the only ones that can actually argue that, which is very impressive. Not even Magic Johnson can say that he was the best player, the Finals MVP, on all of his title runs. Not even the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar can sit there and say that he was the greatest player on all of his title runs, which is mighty impressive for an accolade. So, what does he need to do? Well, honestly, this is just probably for me. But I think next year, if he wins one more championship, if he goes into the 2021 season and he wins a title with the Lakers again, and he beats Brooklyn, okay, or he goes through some crazy shit to make another finals appearance and to ultimately win another title. If he wins his 5th championship, that to me will put him as the GOAT. That to me will make him the greatest player of all time. Because when you combine everything else with his championships, his Finals MVPs, because I'm going to assume that if he does win his 5th championship, he more than likely will win a Finals MVP along with it. So 5 titles, 5 Finals MVPs, along with maybe 18 All-NBA selections, 40K points, top 5 in assists, give or take. 4-time MVP. I'm not expecting any more of the defensive accolades, to be honest, this year. I'm not, because truth be told, defensively, LeBron is not what he was, and everybody should understand that. So I'm not expecting a DPOY or an all-defensive team selection. But if he could definitely get one more championship and more All-NBA selections, and just keep going with where he's going in statistics, because honestly, that is not going to be hard for him, then I think, to me, he would be the greatest player to ever play the game. And if he three-peats with Anthony Davis, let's say they win this year and then they win in 2022, then in my opinion, there should be no debate. LeBron would be clearly the greatest player of all time, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are going to still have Jordan, and that is nice, but I just think with Bron having the same amount of championships with double finals appearances, three-peating in the Western Conference, which is something a lot of people, let's not forget, said he couldn't do. a lot of people were sitting there saying that he could not win if he was in the Western Conference, and he has benefited or relied on the Eastern Conference being so garbage. First of all, that narrative should be dead now, because LeBron has proven this season that he could have, in his peak, if he wanted to, he could have went to the Western Conference and he could have won championships in the West. He definitely wouldn't have gotten to as many finals appearances, but he definitely would have been a champion in the Western Conference at his peak. If you gave him a competent championship level roster, he definitely would have won a title in the Western Conference. So that is completely something that needs to die. And please just let that narrative die, because that was one of the biggest things that actually really did frustrate me about people saying that about LeBron's career. So yeah, I think definitely a three-peat would, in my opinion, I don't even think it should be a debate anymore. If he wins 3 in the Western Conference, after people said he couldn't do it, along with double the finals appearances, having about maybe 19 All-NBA selections, maybe all 3 of them being first team, that would just be the cherry on top of the sundae. As well as breaking 40K points and shit like that. That, to me, would make him the greatest player of all time, and would make him the undisputed greatest player of all time. But like I said, if he wins next year, I'll revisit this conversation, and I will definitely sit there and say that he is the greatest player all time next year if he does win a championship. But now I'm going to pass it off to you guys. That is going to be my thoughts and situations about this championship. My next NBA discussion will be double standards about LeBron's legacy and about his about this championship and all his title runs. So with that being said, guys, let me know in the comment section below if you guys did enjoy this type of a video. And if you do want to see more, hit the like button, obviously, because that's going to let me know that you guys want to see stuff like this. But with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. I'm out. Peace.